The Audible is back in action. I'm joined by my guys, Donnie Rightside and the Whale Capper, and we are breaking down each and every division in the NFL. Today, we are breaking down the AFC South, a competitive division and a lot of moving parts here. The Colts are the favorites, and the Colts could be great. But then we have three teams in similar situations. The Texans, who need to win now. The Jaguars, who don't have Blake Bortles to ruin things. And then the Titans, who confound me year after year. Donnie Rightside, the AFC South.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, you're taking a look at this division as a whole. Head coaching is going to really come into play. Is a certain defense down in the South going to bounce back? And there's one quarterback in this division. Can he stay upright and not 6 feet under? I'm looking forward to this division. It's competitive, Jimmy.
Whale Capper, the AFC South. What are your first feelings?
A lot of these divisions, there's uncertainty. There's teams that look like, oh, they could be good. They could be coming up. This team could be regressing. This division, though, I feel like is very cleanly cut. I feel like we can talk pretty confidently about the way these teams stack up. There are some teams that have obvious red flags that are worth knowing about before you get involved in backing them on an over. And then there are some teams that I think are very clearly the class of the AFC that we should get into that, this is going to be a lot of, there are going to be some confident takes on this one as opposed to some of the other divisions where I feel a lot more wishy-washy.
I'm excited to break this down. Let's start with the favorites. Donnie mentioned to me that in his book, it's a 9.5 win total for the Colts and 8 for every other team. I have the 9 for the Colts, or 9.5 for the Colts and 8.5 for each and every other team. So we'll start breaking this down. Season win totals 9.5, juice to the over for the Colts. To win the division, plus 120. To win the conference, plus 800. Super Bowl, plus 1,600. Andrew Luck, MVP, plus 800. Andrew Luck, most passing yards, plus 400. T.Y. Hilton, most receiving yards, plus 1,200. Darius Leonard, Defensive Player of the Year, plus 3,300. Last year, they were 5th in the AFC in offense, 7th in defense. But plenty of weapons for Andrew Luck and a lot of cash not spent yet for this team. They bring in Paris Campbell, a great pick, an enormous weapon out of Ohio State. He will take the pressure off of T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron, a beast at tight end. They bring in Devin Funchess, Marlon Mack at running back. And then they have this strong D led by Darius Leonard, Malik Hooker, and now Justin Houston joins. How good will these Indianapolis Colts be, Donnie Rightside?
I mean, what's not to like, actually, about the Colts? I mean, you try to get the Colts a year ahead of schedule. Last year, they were very good, but they're still building. You're right, Jimmy. You bring up a good point there, saying how much money they still have under the cap. This was one of the teams that you thought might have took a shot and said, you know what? We have so much money. Why don't we just go out and get Le'Veon Bell at this point and really take it to the next level? They technically don't need him because when you look at the offensive line, it's nasty. It's built. The one thing that you need as a competitive advantage in the NFL is keeping your quarterback healthy. What a job Frank Wright did, and what a scheme that he had. What was there, maybe 5 or 6 games last year we didn't get sacked at all? That is amazing. If your quarterback stays upright and is accurate, you're going to be able to move the football. Let's also not forget last year, Jimmy, for the most part of the year, T.Y. Hilton was banged up with a high ankle sprain. If he comes in healthy now you have more possession receivers. You have a defense that's really underrated in the grand scheme of things. But when you take a look at this division, I think you have a clear coaching advantage with the Indianapolis Colts over the rest of the division. I think you have a clear, forget about just like as the whole team operates. Look at the offense and the scheme that they put in versus the rest of this league. One team is built with the Colts on saying, let me protect my quarterback, when there's another team with Houston that says, let just run around, make plays, hold on to the ball, and take 16 hits a game. It's clear to me that the Indianapolis Colts are the best team in this division. And you know what's funny to look at? They're 14-1 to win the Super Bowl, Jimmy. So are the Cleveland Browns. Give me the Colts over the Browns any day at 14-1.
Yeah, I agree. And to win the division at plus 120 still has a ton of value. They're plus 1,600 to win the Super Bowl at the book that I use. Whale Capper, how good are these Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, that plus 120 to win the division, that is a jam. I mean, that is like the idea that it's less than 50%, by implied break-even probability is wild to me. They clearly have the best coach. They clearly have the best quarterback. We live in a universe in the NFL where the regular season is determined like 80 to 90% of your success is based on those two factors, and you clearly are better than every other team in your division. And oh, by the way, your nearest competitor in the Houston Texans have a much more difficult schedule than you do. Like this is shocking. It's surprising. You brought up the comparison to the Browns in terms of Super Bowl price. That is wild. Browns haven't made the playoffs in years and years and years. The Colts won a playoff game on the road last year. Like, this is a team that came into last season with very low expectations. We did not know about the health of Andrew Luck. He had not played an entire season of football. They were like, man, maybe they win 5, 6. Yeah, I don't know. They have a terrible roster. We don't know anything about this coach. We don't know about the health of the quarterback. Well, it turns out all of the question marks on that team came back with glowing A pluses. They had an offensive line rookie who was like legitimately in contention for Rookie of the Year last year. That's unheard of. Like, this team is deep. They are young. They have room to grow and improve in lots of places across the roster. They made great picks in the draft. I honestly can't say anything negative about the way that this team is positioned to take on the AFC as a whole this year. I see value across the board in almost every one of those numbers you mentioned. I have them floor probably 10 wins, reasonably 9 wins, but I think this is a 10-win team in about 80% of the ways you break down that different things could happen on the course of the season. They even have a backup quarterback I respect. If Andrew Luck gets banged up at some point in the season, not that we would expect that to happen because he may have a clean jersey on more than half of the games because this offensive line is so damn talented. You still have a backup quarterback that I think can come in and give you a serviceable couple starts if needed. So, there's really, this is kind of the low risk, low hanging fruit as you look across the division futures landscape as far as I see it. And I think that there's reasonable expectation that this team can make the AFC title game this year. And so if you want to grab a little bit to win the AFC and have that in your pocket and hope that game happens in Indianapolis, then I'm not stopping you.
I like it. First and foremost, a lot of value on the over-win total, a lot of value on the division, and possibly a lot of value on the conference. And Whale Capper is one of those guys who had them last year way ahead of the curve with a huge ticket. I like it. Okay, let's move on to the Houston Texans. So the win total I have in my book is 8.5. Now that's juiced to the under. Juice pretty heavy to the under. To win the division, plus 220. To win the conference, plus 1,600. To win the Super Bowl, 3,300, plus 3,300. To make the playoffs, plus 137. Deshaun Watson, MVP, plus 2,500. J.J. Watt, Defensive Player of the Year, plus 700. How good is Deshaun Watson? I think that it's still a question that needs to be asked. Well, maybe we get to know better if they would start protecting him. They just don't protect this guy. Now they've drafted Titus Howard out of Alabama State to help protect him. We know that DeAndre Hopkins is a spectacular wide receiver. Top 3, maybe top 1. They need Will Fuller to stay healthy. Watt is getting older. They need to take advantage of him and Clowney right now. The question is, did they improve in the offseason? Their draft took a lot of heat. It was not a popular group of players that they grabbed in the draft. Donnie Rightside, let's start with you, the Houston Texans.
When we take a look at it, Jimmy, you're really built on your front line here. You're really built on your offensive line. You have to protect your quarterback, and especially if your quarterback is a mobile guy who says, you know what, I can make plays in the pocket. I need a little bit extra time. This is exactly the opposite offensive line that you want for a kid who's trying to make plays and hold on to the ball extra long and run maybe some play action pass routes. Because when you're looking at DeAndre Hopkins and opposite, absolutely stunning talent. Will Fuller, stunning talent. Kiki Kuti, it's all out there. You even have a decent running back that can break away with Lamar Miller. But none of that matters if you can't block for anything. You saw it. This kid took an absolute beating in the pocket last year. And what's going to change this year? And if we're ranking coaches 1 through 4 in this division, as much as I don't like a lot of the other coaches, Bill O'Brien, with all that talent over the last 3 to 4 years, has done nothing for this team, and they continue to leave him in place. How bad was their draft? How bad were they out-thunk in the draft? They fired their general manager after 1 year because of how poorly he operated in the offseason and the draft. This is a team that, if I'm taking a look at, Jimmy, at the 8 as a team total, I'm almost factoring in that, you know what, their quarterback's probably going to go down at one point. But if you're starting the season already behind the 8 ball on the offensive line, what happens when injuries creep in on the offensive line this year? I don't think it's going to make too much of a great game plan decision for Bill O'Brien. Look at the defense as well. Yes, they can get after the passer. How about you, Davion Clowney? What happens if he says, you know what, you're not going to pay me? I'm not even going to show up to week 3 or 4, and I'm going to pull what I did in college. I couldn't go pro, so I took the whole year off until I can get paid, until I go to the next level. I don't see a lot of positives here. You have a lot of shakeup in the secondary, but of all these teams, and we're going to take a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think are improved and are more on the upswing. The Tennessee Titans didn't have a great year. I think they're more talented. This is the team I expect to slip from in this division, Jimmy.
Wow. A lot of question marks around the Texans. Whale Capper, how do you see this squad?
Dude, we're rowing the boat in the same direction today, fellas. I love this. Let's do a little word association. Bill O'Brien. First thing I think of, fraud. Okay, this guy is not a playoff winning head coach. He will not take you to the promised land. He was lucky not to have gotten fired after 4 weeks last year. He should have lost his job. And then turn around and they fire their general manager after the draft this year. Like, there are red flags over so many parts of this organization. I'm losing track of them. And then you get onto the field. Do they have talented players on both sides of the ball? Obviously. Red flags, though, all around Clowney. Donnie, you could not have nailed that more perfectly. Like, do you see a legitimate, bona fide effort out of Clowney this year, given his contract status? Your guess is as good as mine. There's no reason to think that we will. J.J. Watt, plus 700 to be Defensive Player of the Year. You're telling me he's for sure going to play 16 games this season? I would take the under on whatever total games you think he will play this season. He was put back together with Scotch tape and twine, made it through 16 games last season, no-showed in the playoffs. Like, this is a very fragile situation with this team. They exist on the defensive side based on their pass rush and their linebacker play. They have lots of weaknesses in their secondary. They can be attacked by the teams that can pass the ball. And guess what? There's plenty of teams now as you look across the AFC landscape that can pass the ball. And guess what? As you look down their schedule, there are plenty of those teams on the Texans' schedule this year. So this is setting up for a legitimate step back for this team and this franchise this season. I love the young, talented quarterback they have in Deshaun Watson. I think we will be talking about him if we are doing this show in 5-10 years. We will be talking about Deshaun Watson still has got it in this league because he has the tools. He has the ability to make the passes down the field that you need to be a successful passer in this league. But again, Donnie nailed it. They don't have the pieces around him to keep him upright for large enough portions of the game that he can, get you back into the game if you are behind. And that is the last red flag that I need to expect them to underachieve in terms of win total this year. They'll beat up on some of the bottom feeders in the AFC. But this is a team that when they go up against the best, they are going to come up short as far as I handicap them.
I agree with both of your takes on the Texans. I'm going to have nothing to do with them in my future's action unless I want to take a stab on the under, but with the high quality of quarterback wide receiver play, even without being protected, it still makes me a little afraid to take the under minus 140 at my book. Let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars season win total at my book 8.5, and this is even heavier juice to the under. Under is minus 150 to win the division plus 375, win the conference 16-1, Super Bowl 33-1 to make the playoffs plus 225, and Leonard Fournette comeback player of the year plus 1400. Let's start there. I don't know if I can trust Fournette to bounce back, and he's such a key piece to this offense. No more Blake Bortles around to ruin things. How much better will Nick Foles make this team? It's clear that the Jags got better with Nick Foles, but how much? A big blow not having Telvin Smith this year. Big blow. It's going to mean that Miles Jack will be needed desperately to step up. He's a great player, but they need him badly. Josh Allen dropped in their lap at number 7 overall. Can this team, Donnie, have 2 bad years in a row?
You know what? I'm actually glad they had a bad year last year because I think you can redo some things. I like Tom Coughlin as the head of the organization, but again, it didn't get off to that great of a start in the offseason where Tom Coughlin's out there going, I don't care if it's not mandatory. Everybody should be here. And Jalen Ramsey's going to come out. He's going to mouth off at that, but it seems like he's calmed down a little bit from his boisterousness, as we like to say, over the last year's and offseason. Taking a look at the Jaguars itself, I like the fact they got Nick Foles. Why? Just because of the simple fact he's a calming influence in the huddle with all these guys. Do you think Blake Bortles, when a play comes in where they've got, rip right, 32 extreme right slant, like, man, he's not going to complete this pass out here. And then he rolls out of the pocket and the guy's running wide open for 5 yards and he can't hit the guy. Nick Foles is going to be that guy that's going to be accurate. He's going to run the short passing game. He's going to tell the guys in the huddle like he did in Philadelphia, I love you guys. Let's go out and win this football game. That's all fine and good, but we need to still see it on the field as it progresses. The one thing I do like being at the IFBC last year with Whale Capper, I think this defense is going to come back. Now, Telvin Smith, retiring for a year or saying like he doesn't want to play this year, that definitely does hurt them a little bit. But this pass rush is going to get after people. And if you have a pass rush that gets after people and reloading in the draft, you already have two of the most solid cornerback tandems in the NFL on this team. If the defense rebounds, that's what it's going to. And look, we're talking about a defense that's rebounding here that was top 5 in the NFL, top 6, top 7, depending on which metrics you were using last year. So if they even step it up just a little bit and have any offensive competency quarterback play, you're going to be fine. But, Jimmy, get back to your original point. It's hard to trust the running back. I mean, there's an MO there at LSU. Oh, my God, look at the highlights. Yeah, but he missed 3 games that season. We're opening game, first half. I tweaked my hammy, never the same the rest of the year. I don't know if you're going to get that top play out of Leonard Fournette this year, but I think you're going to have an upgrade. And just taking a look at a team total with a little bit of plus money, I like the Jaguars to get that 9th win this year because I think that defense is going to rebound.
Wow, Donnie thinks the Jaguars can bounce back and get over that win total at a big plus price. Whale Capper, do you think the Jaguars have it in them to bounce back?
I don't. I don't expect much out of this team. If they land in the 7 to 9, 9 to 7 range, I won't be surprised. But I also am not in any way interested in getting on a wins over, expecting them to be competitive in the AFC, and the reasons are pretty straightforward. Their real only strength, period, on the whole team is their pass defense. Okay, and if you have one thing that you want in today's NFL as far as the defense goes, it's the ability to cover cover wide receivers, cover tight ends, and they have guys that can do that. That is great, but it doesn't put points on the board. And great, you got Nick Foles. That solves your quarterback problem. But I think a lot of the things that made Nick Foles successful are still in Philadelphia. They didn't travel to Jacksonville with him, namely the coaching staff, the scheme, the protection he was afforded by the offensive line, the weapons around him in the passing game. All of those things that were part of his, key parts to his success in Philadelphia don't exist at anywhere close to the same level in Jacksonville. And so to expect him to swoop in and all of a sudden see a significant turnaround in how your offense performs, I think is a reach. That said, their defense is good enough that if they can create turnovers, if they can score points on defense, if they can stymie opponents' passing games, they'll be in it. They may win games, but I'm in no way, shape, or form counting on Leonard Fournette to be a contributing factor in this NFL season coming up. I mean, I've sold my Leonard Fournette stock years ago, and I don't think we've seen the bottom of it yet. And I would say Doug Marrone, I don't love the situation he's in where he's moving offensive coordinators around and he's going to break in a new guy this year. I don't love the situation he's in where he's effectively under Tom Coughlin in terms of decision-making on how he sets up his scheme and how he runs his offense. Those are huge problems, huge red flags. And, just kind of the general old school nature that they want to run this football team does not play well, in my opinion, for current status of the NFL in terms of regular season, how many points you have to score to win football games. So all of this said, I think my most likely projection is this team comes in around 7-9. But I don't see enough of an edge to bet them on the under, especially the way it's juiced out right now. So I'm gonna politely refrain from backing the Jaguars. I'm going to look for opportunities to fade them when they're going up against high-powered, dynamic offenses that can attack you on both. That can attack you with a balanced offensive attack that don't specifically rely on their passing game. And then I'm going to look for opportunities to back them against the spread as we get deeper into the season, as defense starts to matter more, as the game's scores start to tick down in terms of total score. I think they'll have better chances to rack up wins later in the season than the early part of the season. But I think you look up, halfway through the season and you're like, Jags are 3-5. They're out of the playoff race. Is Doug Marrone going to get fired? Is Nick Foles the answer? I think all of these questions we'll be asking through the middle part of this season, which means I'm not interested in backing them on their wins total over for sure. I'm just going to look for opportunities to bet against them when I see the mismatches against, in terms of being able to score points.
I think very good points made by both of you guys. Although on different sides of the fence, there's a ton of volatility with this Texans team and with this Jaguars team. They both have high upsides and could break down. And the Jaguars could win 6, could win 9 or 10. Tricky team to cap. And then we get to the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, man, I just seem to take their over year in and year out, and it blows up in my face. We're talking about an 8.5 or an 8 again. If it's 8.5, it's heavily juiced to the under. To win the division, plus 650. Win the conference, plus 2,800. Win the Super Bowl, plus 6,000. To make the playoffs, plus 333. Most rushing yards for Derrick Henry, plus 1,200. That, I don't know how he could be ranked that high, personally. We have Tannehill waiting in the wings in case Mariota struggles or more likely gets hurt. But it is a contract year for Mariota, and I've always believed in this guy. I always have, and it's ended up costing me often. Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis should be dangerous. Dion Lewis just doesn't seem capable to do what he was doing with the Patriots with the Titans. He just doesn't seem to be as dangerous as I expect him to be. A.J. Brown could be a draft steal, very dangerous wide receiver. Corey Davis, here's another guy that's just always disappointed me. I mean, I guess we're only talking about 2 years, but 2 years of disappointment. Adam Humphries comes over, should be a weapon. And we talked about new offensive coordinator with Maroney. We have another one here with the Titans. Vrabel stayed inside the Titans organization to bring in Arthur Smith. Matt LaFleur gone for the Green Bay Packers head coaching job, and we have Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith's been with the team since they drafted Mariota. He should be perfect. What do we do with these Tennessee Titans, Donnie Rightside?
Yeah, usually Real Capper likes to start some of these conversations with a deep breath here, because this is one of the teams that I sit back and I beat myself up over, because you look at the overall picture of their team and you say, 8 wins. That definitely should be doable. Then you look at the actual division they're in and say, boy, that's a tough schedule that you have. You look at the wide receivers, if they pan out, you get Adam Humphries in the slot there. You have a nice draft pick at a wide receiver in the draft. Then you already have, Corey Davis that you spent a high draft pick on previous. You have Delaney Walker coming back from injury. You have a nasty offensive line. You have a scat back there in Lewis to pound with Derrick Henry. And then you look at that quarterback position, and it should be a much better situation. When you take the number 1 overall pick in the draft, who's a Heisman Trophy winner, you expect a little bit more, because in the NFL, as we know, this is a quarterback league. Like, you can't pick and choose a quarterback and say, well, let's take him out. If we put Andrew Luck on this team, what it would look like. It would be amazing, but you can't do that. And it all boils down to overall quarterback play. First of all, with Mariota, excitement, can run the football, can lead some drives, yes. But doesn't it always feel like you're going to see him on camera after the play, holding his shoulder, holding his wrist, limping off to the side of the field, or maybe not making that more accurate pass? Because when you look at a team total of 8, they should get there. Plus 600 or so to win the AFC South, 40-1 to win the AFC, 66-1 to win the Super Bowl. This team has way more talent and should be priced more appropriate, but I just can't get over the quarterback in this situation, Jimmy. When I look at this team in this tough division, I think it's approximately right to have a team total of 8. I think they're more talented than 8 wins. Heck, the last 3 years, 9 wins, 9 wins, 9 wins. They're on that same trajectory, but I can't see them getting over the hump and winning this division.
Numbness in his hand. How many times do we have to deal with numbness in his throwing arm last year to make it such a tricky cap? Numbness. He's a quarterback. I hope he can feel his hands. Well, Capper, what do we do with the Titans this year?
Yeah, this is a big sigh, big deep breath, and there's the franchise itself. So many moving parts with the future of your team. Mariota, I'm not sold on him. I'm not sold on him that he can be your quarterback of the future. I hate going against guys in contract years who have his talent. Like, it's not a good feeling. You don't run to the window and bet under on the Titans and be like, I'm fading a guy who's like his future of the NFL is on the line this year. Like, it's not a good feeling. But the number that they opened for this team is way too high. It is the first thing I thought of when I saw it. And then, you go to look, you make a great point, Donnie. 999 last couple of years. Like, that's clearly influencing this number. But you dig a little bit deeper. Were all 9 of those wins earned last year? I don't think so. I think you look at their point differential. You look at some of the lucky bounces that they got. You look at the way they won some of their games. That was like a 7-9 kind of team. The fact that they were even in it in the last week of the season with a chance to win and get in against the Colts was remarkable. Like, I can't believe they were even in that situation, to be honest with you. They won quite a few games that I thought that they were not the better team in, and I think regression is going to come knocking in general on this team, because I don't know that Vrabel is the answer at coach. I don't know that Mariota is the answer at quarterback. And it looks like you're going to break in a new offensive coordinator. He's going to build his scheme around Derrick Henry. That's not how you build a winning team in the NFL in 2019. You have got to have a more dynamic approach. They haven't really developed any chemistry with Mariota and any of the threats in the passing game. So I don't know how they're going to be doing that on the fly with a new offensive coordinator, with a schedule that's not especially, soft. So there's enough of a signal here to look for a Tennessee Titans team total under that I'm going to be under that number. I think this is like a 6-10 team, and I think Mariota is probably on the free agency market next year, looking for a second opportunity. The injury concerns are for real with him. The potential that in a big moment he throws 4 picks in some game are very real. I've lost count of those. Thursday night football against the Steelers. What do you know? Mariota throws 4 picks like that. Count on that this year. Like high profile in regular season game, he's gonna put up a stinker. I'm not in on the way that they have constructed this team, and I think that there are some weaknesses to be able to be attacked on the defense, especially in the passing game. So you put it all together into a pot. You put them into this division where they're going to have a tough time winning on the road against the Texans and the Jaguars. They're going to lose probably both games to the Colts. This is a 6-win team as far as I handicap them. So give me the under on the Tennessee Titans.
Wow. Well, there is your AFC South. And after breaking it down, it feels like there's one team that we can count on in this division, and that being the Colts. And if we can count on them to this extent, I doubt that when we come to kickoff of week 1, we're still getting a nice plus line for them to win the division. I bet you this number goes down and maybe should be taken early. And that's what I did with the Bills and Dolphins. I already locked myself in with the Bills and Dolphins after our last video. Maybe it's time to do the same with the Colts. And after breaking this down, that's the only team I really trust. Donnie, the AFC South, final thoughts.
Yeah, real quick on that. I think we're all in agreement. The Colts are the most talented team, best scheme, best head coach. That's going to lead them to, again, you'll probably look at a home playoff game for the Colts, which will help them into the playoffs. The only little bit of a downfall here is it is a shaky start to begin the season. We're taking a look at the Chargers and then at the Tennessee Titans, which is a divisional game. If they can just go 1-1 in that, I think there's going to be some room to set up, and they're going to certainly hit the team total. But just to wrap up the AFC, don't sleep on my Jacksonville Jaguars down there, Whale Capper. We're going to play some good defense, and anything is better than Blake Bortles. Let's see what happens there, but I think it's the Colts division to win.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Will you be sleeping on these Jaguars, Whale Capper?
Well, another year of me doubting Nick Foles' ability to be a winning football player. So I suppose yes. This is turning into a brand, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Nick Foles, but like I said, what he did in Philadelphia was spectacular. I feel like a lot of that success needs to be shared with the way that they had, with the coaching staff, the offensive scheme, aggressiveness, the weapons they had. And I don't see any of that, in place for him to have the same level of success with the Jags. That said, I look at their schedule. I see them winning a lot of games down the stretch. So if they can get out to 4-4 instead of 3-5, do they hit their win total? Probably. But it's for me, the Colts are the clear class, high ceiling, high floor. And so I would say, you can stop there if that's all you're really feeling confident in at this point. You want to see and feel out some of the rest of the teams. The Texans, to me, huge red flags. Bill O'Brien on the hot seat. I would be more surprised if the Texans win this division than I will be if Bill O'Brien is not the head coach next year. I think that is a more likely outcome for this team than them winning the AFC South. And then when it comes to the Jaguars, like I mentioned, team built on defense. In a way that should be competitive. Maybe they hit their win total, but I'm probably not going to be getting involved in that one. And then I like that Titans under quite a lot. So those are my opinions.
And that is the AFC South. On behalf of myself, Donnie Rightside, Whale Capper, thank you guys so much for watching as we continue to break down each and every division before week 1 kickoff. Thank you guys for watching.